That we may look back at last night as the beginning of the end of the Republican presidential primary, the start of a general election campaign that's going to be unlike any other. Yes, the New Hampshire primary was a decisive win for Donald Trump, the kind of win that squashes any momentum for his one remaining challenger, Nikki Haley. But buried in last night's results are also some very hard truths about Americans' views of Donald Trump, of Trumpism, and the state of our democracy. As the Bulwark put it today, Nikki Haley has now beaten Donald Trump twice in Iowa and New Hampshire, among two groups of voters who, in a saner world, would be deciding the Republican presidential nomination. The first group is Republican primary and caucus voters who acknowledge that Trump legitimately lost the 2020 presidential election. The second group, which overlaps with the first, is Republican primary and caucus voters who accept that if Trump were to be convicted of a crime, he would be unfit to serve as president. Exit polling from NBC News shows that while the Republican base may have stuck with Trump, not everyone who voted in last night's primary lives in the Earth 2 concocted by Trump and his allies. From NBC News, quote, just 13% of Haley voters said they would be satisfied with Trump's winning the GOP nomination, while 86% of her voters said he wouldn't be fit to serve as president should he be convicted of a crime. We're talking about voters like this.
I voted for Nikki Haley because I was voting against Donald Trump.
And what propelled you to get to this point?
I'm 74 years old. I've lived in a constitutional democracy all my life. I want to remain that way, and I want my grandchildren to grow up in one, not a dictatorship.
The outcome last night makes it all the more likely that it will fall on Democrats to assemble a coalition of voters clear-eyed about the threat posed by an ex-president who has made his campaign about his own legal woes and his disdain for the rule of law. And that is where we start today with co-founder and executive director at Protect Democracy, Ian Bassin, plus editor-at-large for The Bulwark, Charlie Sykes. And here with me at the table, professor of politics and journalism at Morgan State University and host of the podcast A Word, Jason Johnson, joins us. Thank you so much for being here with me. Let's start with you. You looked at these results. What stuck out to you?
Oh, wait, Nikki Haley lost. Like, we knew that was going to happen, right? Like,
right.
There was no surprise here. It was it wasn't a playoff game. It wasn't anything we're surprised about. But Donald Trump performing so poorly with independent voters has got to make Democrats happy. The fact that you had people like that woman's not the only person who was like, I don't want this man to become president. If that is an attitude that is sort of the feeling, maybe even just 5% of Republican voters, if they've now gotten to a point where like, okay, this guy is gross, he's disgusting, and those people happen to be in Pennsylvania and happen to be in Michigan and happen to be in Georgia, then this is a very good sign for Joe Biden. But again, this race is not over by any means, and I mean the presidential race, because we've still got months more for these guys to really convince America to be excited about this.
Ian, you, me, Jason Johnson, Charlie Sykes, we are all